Hello. Today, let us start with functions. So, what is function? So, functions are the subprograms which are used to perform a specific task. So, there are two types of functions, mainly built-in functions and user-defined functions. So, built-in functions. For example, built-in function can be print function, input function, and upper function, lower function is upper function. So everything will be built-in function. So built-in function is nothing but the functions which Python has by default, by inbuilt. If it has as such functions are called as inbuilt functions. User-defined functions. User-defined functions are the functions which are defined by the user. So the user who creates the functions is called as user-defined functions. Function creation without arguments. We can define a function using def keyword followed by function name with parenthesis. So we can define a function with the help of def keyword. So the syntax for this is def function name local variable block of statements return variable or expression. So and I have given the example also. Def func1 is a function name, open brackets describes its a function, then the local variable is a is equal to 20 and printing the value of a, return a. So this is the function creation without arguments. Now let us execute this function in the code editor. Without arguments. So if I try to create that func1 a is equal to 20, printing the value of a, return it. So this is the function without argument. It doesn't have any argument. Now let us move to the next concept, which is calling a function. So a function can be executed only when it is called. So we have created the function here. In order to get the output of this function, we need to call this function. So how we can call this function? A function can be executed only when it is called. So the following function, whichever we have created, can be executed only when the function is called. So the function can be called with the help of function name parenthesis. Example func1, func2, so on, so on. So now in order to call this function, we can make use of function call. So since func1 returns an value a, we need to print it before calling it. When I print this, so printing the value of a and its value is 20. This is how the function without arguments works. Now let us move to the next concept, function creation with arguments. Function can accept some values or arguments. We can define these arguments inside the parentheses of a function definition. So we could able to pass some values by calling the function. Before that, you need to define arguments while defining the function. So that's what the definition describes. So the syntax is def function underscore name para1 para2. Para1 para2 are the arguments which are defined during the function definition. Its local variable block of statements return variables or expression. So the example is def func2 value 1, a is equal to 20, b is equal to a plus value 1, return b. So let me create one more function. Let me create another function. Def func2 value 1. So a is equal to 20 and C is equal B is equal to A plus val1. So printing the value P, return P. So in order to call, so since the function returns the value P, we need to print before calling it. So func2, when I call this, I need to pass an value as val1 is an argument. Let me give a value as 10. When I run this program, I'm getting the output as 30. So here both the functions are running. So first output is 20, printing the value of A, and in the second function the value will be printing the value B and its value is 30. So 20 plus 10, it is 30. So I will try to mention here function without arguments function with arguments. That's all. Now let us move to next concept, formal and actual arguments. Formal arguments. The function definition parameters are called as formal arguments. Actual arguments, function call arguments, are called as actual arguments. So while defining a function, we are giving some arguments in the function definition itself. So those are called as formal arguments. During a function call, we will pass some arguments. Those are called as actual arguments. These are the two simple definition. So while defining a function, if you pass any of the arguments, is called as formal arguments. When you calling a function, if you use any of the arguments, is called as actual arguments. Now let us move to the types of actual arguments. There are 4 types of actual arguments. One is positional arguments, keyword arguments, default arguments, variable length arguments. We will go through one by one. So first let us move to positional arguments. Positional arguments. So the arguments are passed to the function in correct position order. The number of arguments and their position in the function definition should be equal to the number and position of the arguments in the function call. So the arguments when we are calling through a function call, right, should pass to the function in a correct position order. So the position and order should be maintained before calling. For example, we have a function def func1 x comma y z is equal to x plus y, print z. So when you call this function, if you need to maintain the position in the correct order, because if you mismatch the position, mismatch the order, then the values assigning will be different. Here for this function, the value 10 will be assigned to x and 20 will be assigned to y. In this way, the positional arguments will be considered. So let us move to the code editor and perform its operation. So positional arguments dot py. So def func1, I will define x comma y. So if I now I will define one more value, define x plus y, and I will print the value z. So if I call this function func1, and if I pass some values 10 comma 20, then the summation will be 30. So here, if I try to So now the 10 has been assigned to x and 20 is assigned to y. In this way, the summation is done with respect to z, where z is equal to x plus y. Now the values are printed. In order to check its position with respect to x and y, we can print those values here itself in order to get confirmation. Print x, print y. Now if I run this, the x value is 10 and y value is 20 and z value is 30. In such way, where when you define a function, the order of x comma y is as followed in the first and second position. So when you call the function, the same order should be maintained. So at that point of time, the 10 will be assigned to x and 20 will be assigned to y. So this is the completion of positional arguments. Now let us move to keyword arguments. Keyword arguments are passed to function with name value pair, so keyword arguments can identify the formal arguments by their names. So here when you call the function, you could able to give the actual arguments with the help of formal arguments name. So the keyword arguments name and formal arguments name must match. So if you look into the example, def func2 name of age, when you print the name of age, so this is the final output of func2. But when you call this function, you can assign the actual arguments to the formal arguments by giving with the help of name value pair. So here you don't want to mess up with positional arguments. Anyhow, you can follow the name value pair in order to pass an actual arguments. So let us execute this operation in a code editor, then you will get the clear understanding. Keyword arguments .py. So here if func2 name comma age, so print name comma age. When I call this func2 where name is equal to Naveen and age equals to 26. When I run this function, I'm getting the output as Naveen and 26 because the output of this function 2 is name comma age. So this is how the keyword argument performs. In keyword argument, the actual argument, while passing an actual argument, it will be in terms of name value pair. Name value pair means it will be associated with formal arguments which will be defined in the function. So in such way you could able to define its arguments, keyword arguments. Now let us move to default arguments. In some cases, we mention default values to the formal arguments in function definition, and we may require to provide actual arguments. In this case, default arguments will be used by formal arguments. So in some cases, what happens is we will be giving some default values, even though if you didn't pass any of the values, the default values will be taken into consideration and the following data will be printed. And if we do not provide actual arguments for the formal argument explicitly while calling the function, the formal arguments will use default values. On their other hand, if you provide actual argument, then it will use the given value. Yeah, so as I said, it has some default values. Even though if you didn't give anything, it will be used explicitly, and if you give some many values, so it will be taken into consideration and it will be overwritten, and the following data which you have passed will be taken into consideration and the following data will be printed. Now let us execute these default arguments in the code editor. Okay, here func 3 name comma age is equal to 25, print name comma age. When I call this function, sorry, func3 name is equal to Raksh, and if I didn't pass any of the input here, and if I run this, it will use the age as default values, which is 25, which will be defined in the formal arguments. So then it will print its values. So if I pass one more value, func3 name is equal to Ravi and age is equal to 21. Now the age is overwritten and it is taken as 21. This is how the default arguments works. Now let us move to variable length arguments. Variable length argument is an argument that can accept any number of values. The variable length argument is written with star symbol. It stores all the values in tuple. So if you look into the example, func4 x comma star y. So star y values is not at all defined because it has variable length of values. So that's why z is equal to x plus y of 0, y of 1, whichever the values you are defining. So that number of values will be taken into consideration and the summation will be done with respect to z, and following z value will be printed. Now let us execute this function. Variable length arguments dot py. So here f func4, so I will pass value as x star y because I don't know the exact value with respect to number of values with respect to y, where z is equal to x plus y of 0 plus y of 1. So then I will retrieve the value z. So if I pass the values, func4 values, x value let us take 2 and y of 0 is 3 and y of 1 is 4. When I print this, I will get the summation as 2 plus 3 plus 4. 2 plus 3 is 5, 5 plus 4 is 9. So hence this is the output. When you define star y, the length of the variable is not at all defined. At that point of time, you can define n number of values in the expression, which is z is x plus y of 0 plus y of 1, and you can pass that much amount of values or actual arguments during a function call. So this is the execution of variable length arguments. So that's all with the functions. Thank you.